episode is brought to you by... Oh, is this a podcast? Wait, you still don't have a podcast? Okay, hear me out. It's 2024. Everyone has a podcast, and people have been going on to podcasts. Your friends, your famous people, politicians, they're in the news, they're in the presidential election. And if you ever thought, I would love to have a podcast someday, but you haven't started yet, you're definitely not alone. I've heard it so many times from people who wanted to start. They were like, I want to start a podcast. You have a podcast, it's great. I wanted to start a podcast too. I was like, what's stopping them? I understand it. It sounds daunting. You don't know where to start. You don't know what kind of platform you're gonna use. You don't know what kind of gear you can use. And you don't even know, let's say, how to connect to Spotify or Apple Podcasts and all those kind of stuff. But here's the thing. It's 2024. We're almost 2025. As long as you have a phone, maybe you can have a basic camera. It doesn't cost more than a phone anymore. Laptop, there's millions of platforms you can choose from, and you're good to go. You don't need a fancy setup. You don't need the perfect concept. You don't even need many of the fancy guests to start a podcast. If you don't know where to start, but you found this video, you're lucky today because you're already on the right track. Today in this video, I'm going to tell you how are you going to start in a straightforward, low effort way, so it's not overwhelming. It's easy for anyone who wanted to start a podcast. Podcasting is an amazing way to share your voice. You have your own platform. You can shape whatever way that you want it. You have all the excuse to reach out to whoever that you found interesting. And at the end of the day, it's about getting yourself out there. You share the ideas that you learn, you share the interesting things that you found. For me, it's a no-brainer. It's totally worth it. And in this video, we are going to tell you how to start your own podcast in the easiest way. And it doesn't have to be perfect. That's the secret. And are you ready? Let's go. By the way, I'm Lydia. If you're new here, I am an investment banker turned entrepreneur and startup founder. I host two podcasts. One is called Escape 9 to 5. You can find it in this channel on a separate list. The other is called Bite-Sized Climate Tech. Lived in many different cities and now currently split my time between London and Lisbon. And in this YouTube channel, I mainly share how to capture the best memories in life, which involves how to ask for the most interesting people to come onto your podcast. Oh, if you're looking for easy podcast setup, I would highly recommend Riverside. Of course, they're not sponsoring this video, but you can go to the link down below. That's my referral link. I have been using it since day one. I started to remote recording with people. It's just a very, very easy to use, self-explanatory platform. And we will also go into details later in this video. Let's talk about biggest misconception. The name doesn't matter at all. You can see as many of the successful people's podcasts, you can start with a verb, a noun, and then they usually just tag it with somebody. Like, look at it, The Diary of the CEO with Stephen Bartlett, Deep Dive with Ali Abdaal, What Now with Trevor Noah, Rethinking with Adam Grant. All of those, it's like a catchy name. You want people to be able to remember it, and it should be something that has captured what you wanted to talk about. For example, for me, I want to talk to the people who has escaped their 9-to-5 life, which is similar what I am on the path, and it just so happened in my everyday to-day life, it's easier for me to get to those people and get to the people who are in the climate technology sector. So that's how I come up with those names. I don't even have a with the Lydia, something like that. At some point, maybe I will add to that. So it's just very easy, something that you're passionate about, something that's a topic that come up a lot in your life, and something ideally people will be interested in. But that doesn't matter. Just pick any words in your mind and that makes sense, and add with who you are at the end. That's your podcast name. So the second thing I would say is content is more important than whatever the other stuff, because content is what keeps people coming back to you over and over again. That is what you need, a minimal viable proposition or a most valuable player. That's your content. I would say the easiest way for you to get the best content out of anything is you practice. After enough episodes going on, you pick up a pattern. If you're talking about similar topics, for example, I talk to people who has escaped their corporate life and just explore their own way of living. No matter what kind of podcast I'm going about, I was also hosting a podcast for Imperial College during the summer. I always come up with these kind of structure that's easy for me to remember, and it falls naturally into my natural way of communication. It should follow natural flow of storyline, because if you just start it might be very daunting if you have to look back to your notes every now and then. It's helpful to put all of those into groups and categories, and also how you want to create the emotional arc of your podcast episode. And it's also easy for your guests to follow. Having that framework is a lifesaver, because sometimes some of the guests might not have that much time to prepare, or they just give you a date or whatsoever. You need to be there. It was like, yes, I'm ready. So have that kind of framework in my mind. No matter when my guest is ready, I am ready. I can always come up with questions that falls into those frameworks. After the content, then people will ask, what do I need to start a podcast? What kind of gear do I need? Do I need to go to a professional studio? Do I need to have professional camera and all that? Nowadays, I think less is more. You don't need a professional camera. You also don't need professional mic or whatsoever. Like you can see in some other videos, I go to conferences and just have a mic. So this is my entire setup. This is the mic that I usually use. It's not even a mic. It's something that comes with the Rode. And it's easy for you to, I have this dual channel because my camera is white, and I also have the white one. It just matches with my camera. I have been using it since the beginning of days. It's like 200 quid or something like that. It's not that expensive. So you have this receiving end. I'll put it clipped to my camera, and this one, the one that's connecting to the camera, they will use it with they will also give you this kind of connection. This one, it just needs to connect with this and then clip into your camera, and this is ready to go. You need to turn it on, of course. The other end is the receiving end. That's the secret. Because whenever I show up, people always think that I'm very professional and stuff. It's nothing like that. It's only the setup that make it look like professional. You don't forget to turn on this, and put it like this, and I would just have this. This one also helps you to have the sound quality better. And when I'm going on to conferences, or even in some of the interviews in person, I would just use this, and I would do it back and forth with some of my guests. You can see it in my other videos. But that's a very easy setup. I have a tripod which is 160 centimeters. It fits your camera and also your phone. And that's the whole setup of what I have. That is if you're going to record it in person, and if you don't want to pay a studio, you can totally be fancy and go to a studio and pay for them. Some of the studio costs you £25 or £50 depending on what you need from them. The good thing about that is the sound quality is very guaranteed, but personally I like natural light, and I just don't think it's necessary for me. But you can always go to a studio. And that's in person. What happens when you go online? I'll show you a quick example of how I use Riverside, this platform. At the beginning, I also don't know what kind of platform you can use. You can also just use a Zoom. Some of my earliest episodes, I used Zoom, and it's totally fine. You also look great on Zoom. It has this recording function. It has a limit. If you're on the free version, I think it's maximum 40 minutes. You just need to start again, which is not very ideal. Hence why I started to use Riverside. They have free version and also have some versions that you can use some of the AI function, which is really, really helpful. I will show you right now of how I use it for my latest episode with Nat Eliason. It's just the latest one that I put on. Okay, so I have the pay version. I used the free version for a long time until I have started to accumulate more guests than the free version allowed. The free version allows you to have 2 hours of free download every month, but then at some point I just exceeded that, so I just get the paid version. But you can start by a free version most of the time. Unless you're doing it every day, I don't think you would exceed the limit in any way. Riverside is the podcast recording studio. I think everyone knows about this. I didn't do much of market research. I just found whatever that everyone is using. It's also partnering with Spotify. You can just directly upload it to Spotify afterwards. It's very easy and simple. And then everyone will have a studio. So my studio is just like this. And let me go into this Nat recording with Nat. So then they have different, like record it, you can plan a schedule session or invite to record. You can upload even to edit it on Riverside. I didn't use that function because I have my own editing software. But let me go to this Nat recording. So we recorded this on October the 1st, and I just put out the video like 2 weeks ago. Here, once you recorded it, they will upload it on both sides. So when you are recording it, it actually doesn't take too much of your data, but after you finish, it's all uploaded in 4K because it recorded on your end. Into it. The best thing about Riverside is now that with AI, it actually helps so much. Like the script, different ratios, you can choose according to what kind of platform you wanted to post on. This is a new function. I think this is really, really helpful because after you recorded it, and then some people are like, oh, I still need to edit it. Oh my God, there's so much work. On Riverside, if you, at the beginning, you can just say, even do this, smart scenes, and then it would, according to who is saying what. And it's also very easy if you want just to use all of those scripts to delete whatever that you don't want to, and it's automatically done. This is something that I found it very helpful. Play around with this really user-friendly platform, and at the end you can also add, for example, captions. Just choose one that fits what you want. You can choose. Usually I think they're very aesthetic. It's just good to go already. You can also add images, you can add, I think you can also add your own name somewhere. But this is, once you're done, you can hit export. The difference between paid and unpaid version is like whether you can remove watermark, whether you can remove, some of them is also on the free version, and like what kind of resolution level you can export from on this podcast, and then you can just export and then you're done. I think Riverside is really good if you want a simple and easy way, like everything is AI that it's done. Like these are all the magic clips, and you can even generate an entire episode by AI. I haven't tried this function yet, but some of the magic clips I have tried, it's just the platform is directly picking up the best moments. You definitely need to go inside, edit it, and see how it's like. Sometimes AI is not that smart yet, luckily for humans. That's the whole setup of Riverside. And let's see the pricing. I am in a standard plan, which is $180 per year. Less than $15 per month is like 3 cups of coffee. I think it's really good. Like it gives you 5 hours of separate tracks per month, and also all of those editing tools. The thing just goes up if it goes to Pro. It just gives you more AI function, and also if you're going to record, let's say, 15 hours of podcasts in a month, then you use this. My podcast usually is quite short, and even the long form podcast I have is only an hour, so I don't need that function. That's the entire tour of Riverside. Now you have the podcast name, you have your gears, you have your content. What are you going to do? You need to manage your episodes. Common way of managing a podcast, I think it's just a time management. It's like everything in life. How you want to pace yourself, not to suffocate, is that ideally you want to have a few guest episodes pre-recorded already, like 2 to 3. Like you can set your own pace. It could be once a month. It could be twice a month. If you have 2 to 3 episodes going on, then once you've released one, you can use this to invite more guests, or naturally, if you're in those positions, you just naturally have a lot of guests waiting to talk to you on your podcast. That's very ideal. Congratulations, that's a perfect way to start your own podcast. I think that's an easy way to start, because then you wouldn't be like, oh, publishing an episode and then you have to scramble to find a guest, to start one, to edit, and then to find the next guest. Usually better to accumulate 3 to 4 or 2 to 3 episodes before you launch your podcast. And for me, I always try to reach out to people. Seems like a little bit difficult, or even when I first started, I reached out to Matthew Diggs. It just surprises me how open-minded people are. And in general, I think if you're genuine, if you really come up with a really good structure and you show that whatever that your track record is, that it's actually well made and it's thoughtful. So I actually have the pleasure to have a lot of good guests on my podcast, and I would love to keep that going. But the other thing is you wanted to reach out to as many people as you can. Like sometimes I just reach out to like 3 to 4 guests at one go and see who come back. Because if the conversion rate is like 1 out of 4, then I will be very happy. Actually, it's lower than that, but it's fine as long as I have 1 or 2, and that's good enough. And I always collect people who are in my day-to-day life, or if I see my friends who can make an introduction that fit into my theme of podcast, I can also go to them. And then it goes back to all the other steps that I said just now, like don't overthink it, have a structure, have an easy way, frictionless way to record a podcast. It's very important for you to secure the right type of guests and guarantee all of your content. Finally, I have to tell, this is a bonus tip. This one, I have so many failures. Being on YouTube for a few years, so like recording is not an issue for me, but after I start doing podcasting, there are so many different things that it's just fail for no reason. Like, for example, I have there's situations for me to record that episode and then I delete it from my camera because I thought it's already stored in my external drive, which is a horrible thing to do. You should always have backup, so then I lost that episode. And then there's another time I went to this lady's pottery studio. I actually have all the b-roll here, but the 1 hour of recording, the sound just didn't pick up. So I think you should always have your backup plan. For example, even when you have your camera and your mic and everything, maybe it's better that you have your phone just to have a backup recording of all the sounds, just in case, because you cannot get back that time anymore. Failure lessons to share from me. And yeah, finally, just remember, podcasts, it should be something fun to do. If you decided to do it, you are in it for the long game. No one is pushing you on what kind of schedule unless you're doing it professionally, but we are only talking about to start. Get it started, and I'm sure you will find a lot of benefits. You will enjoy it the same way that I do. Alright, that is my take on starting a podcast in 2024. If you still don't have a podcast, seriously, think about it. There's so many ways and so many benefits of having a podcast today. If this video has given you a little bit of motivation to hit start it, just go for it. Don't wait. Just start. Start before you're ready. Start before you know what to do it, because we learn as we're doing it. You'll be surprised at what you're capable of, and you'll be surprised at how big the world is. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, I would highly appreciate you hit the subscribe button. It really helps the channel grows a lot. I have 2 other podcasts as mentioned. One is Escape 9 to 5. The other one is Bite Size Climate Tech. I love those podcasts. If that's resonate with you, I really appreciate if you can share with your friends and family, and especially this video. As I said, the link for Riverside is down below with my referral. I get a kickback from that. Use my link and go to Riverside and check it out. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. You can leave, comment anything down below about your journey of why you wanted to do a podcast. If you haven't started, what's stopping you? And we're a community here. I would love to hear your thoughts. And I'll see you next time.